All right. So I guess just to start off, guys, what are the most critical issues facing our country in this 2008 election?
Well,
golly, there's so many.
I mean, there's
War,
two that
economy,
come to,
right? War,
well,
and
there's two
economy.
that come. Yeah, war. I mean, you know, to put it super cliche, world peace. It's getting really scary. I think what's happening with potentially happening with Iran is really scary. The fact that Israel might be thinking about taking a little action on their own, and I really hope that we'll have a president that can start working with other countries and get a little world unity happening as far as how to take action when problems arise.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's huge is the environment and the global warming bill, for example, that just got shot down. You know, the Republicans filibustered this bill that was incredible and is going to like make it so that large companies had to pay to emit carbon, or at least a certain amount above a set limit. And I think that's so important, and it's going to provide a lot of money potentially for, it goes back in taxpayers' pockets, it goes towards research to alternative energy, and that's a very, very important thing, and I hope our next president can help that actually follow through this time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the economic problems get tied in with that as well, just to sort of really encourage people to, as they go green, to make money, whatever it takes. So, but it'd be nice if our capitalism could be plugged into that whole green thing even more than it already is.
Want to keep going that? All right. I guess next question I'd ask you guys is, to a young fan who's interested in music but might not think politics is relevant to them, what do you have to say?
Please keep the microphone a little close to
I can't help but you really take it for granted. I mean, I know I certainly have all the years of just how comfortable how easy we have it here in our country, and for the first time in my life, as partly because of my age maybe, but also just the way things are, the atmosphere right now, it's really scary. Like, this way of life could really change, and so it's really important at this point, and it always has been, but now it's clearer than ever how important politics are.
Well, and it's already affecting our lives directly, and I guess the harder thing is when you're young, you don't have a perspective, you don't see how it was back then, and already, like for me in my late 30s, I realize, for example, the price of gas is the obvious thing, but how that's affecting every aspect of our lives.
Everything.
It's huge, and I'm already old enough to say, man, I was in my 20s even, the world was really a different place,
Right.
And it's harder to have that perspective when you're younger. But all I can say is if like all the people that were of voting age and into their mid-20s voted on both of the last two elections, I'm sorry, George Bush would not be in the White House today. So young people, you're going to make a huge difference.
Awesome. Right on. Now, this is a little different. What challenges do you think face politically active musicians in this day and age?
Wow.
Not to sound whiny.
Right.
Everyone gives the liberals crap all the time about sounding whiny, But, some are whiny, some are just telling it like it is.
Right.
And some people don't like to hear that.
Yeah. It can be real tricky to mix music and politics. There's tasteful ways to do it. I don't know what they are, but there are tasteful ways to do it.
Yeah, and most of the time they're not what you see on TV and all these sort of talk shows and people talking over each other. I think it's unfortunate that is such a popular medium. It's just because you never get to really hear people follow through their thoughts on the issues, because it's basically a war of who can talk over the other person the most, and so it's a complete joke. I'm sorry, it's a complete joke. Television is a total joke. If you want real information, you got to find other sources.
That's right. I think also for maybe the best thing musicians can do, just as people in the spotlight, is just set an example. I think a lot more. I get real tired of being preached at, but I love hearing about, like, oh wow, Neil Young has a biodiesel bus, or stuff like that. I like hearing about how people who we've heard of that are huge, you know, they're doing things, they're acting, and I think just by example, that's kind of the best influence they can have.
You know, and Radiohead also had a very interesting thing because they were trying to figure out how to make the smallest carbon footprint at one of their shows, and they realized it wasn't them, it was the fans,
right.
Because it was all the fans traveling to these remote places. Unfortunately, right. That's what causes a lot of the carbon emissions, and so they decided, I don't know if they're going to do this because they're huge, but you know, that if they played more centrally located, smaller venues, you know, in urban areas,
right.
Then people don't have to travel as far, less carbon emissions, you know, you get the picture.
Right.
So, but just to hear about that, like Oliver said, you know, I think that's important, that everyone's thinking that way now.
Right.
You just spoke of the TV and how it can be tough for young people in our day and age to kind of discern, well, what on that is true and what on that is trying to get me to believe something or buy something. How do you think the internet and a lot of the new social networks that are coming along have the ability to really change the way in which we are presented with this information and can use it to interact with one another better?
Well, it's kind of nice because things on the internet can get incredibly popular without money behind them, without corporate crap, which TV is all about money, and so I don't know, that's kind of the nice thing. Something will just go viral on YouTube or whatever, and that's not going to happen on TV. So there's a certain power to that was free. Yeah.
All right, now the fun one. You know, Music for Democracy, we interview musicians. We also interview politicians. If you guys could ask a question that you'd want us to ask a politician, what would that be?
Well, I think, you know, one of the biggest issues that affects musicians, you know, making a living, period, is what's going on in the internet these days. I mean, it's a real double-edged sword because on the one hand, you know, in a way, music is being passed. It's more popular than ever. People are listening, trading music, sharing music, you know, our music, things that we want everyone to get out there and we want them to hear and we want them to come to our shows. But it's making it really difficult to make a living selling, you know, your songs in recorded form. And I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of challenges ahead. And I'll try to form this into a question as soon as I can, but it's like the internet, there's going to be a lot of challenges because right now it's this wonderful, chaotic free-for-all. But I think already some certain corporations are trying to find ways to control the flow of information and make money out of it. And I think there's going to be a lot of challenges. So I would ask a politician, like, okay, what are you going to do to make sure that let's see, how can I put this? The same way that a neighborhood gets gentrified and, you know, all the mom and pop stores suddenly get replaced by Gaps and Starbucks and etc. The same thing, I think, is potentially could happen on the internet. And I want to make sure that the small people, the small businesses, like the Wood Brothers, like any other band out there, like any other internet small store, that the money can still go directly from consumer to
right.
to the business.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? Help us, please.